Imagine this. You stand at the edge of infinity. The universe is whispering possibilities to you, pouring entire galaxies of potential into your heart. But there is a wall, invisible, heavy, built not by the stars, but by something far closer, something within you. That wall is your ego. It tells you who you are, what you deserve, what is possible, and what is not. It convinces you that you are small, fragile, separate from the vast currents of energy that flow through existence. And because you believe it, the infinite river of creation slows, constricts, and becomes a trickle. You wonder why manifestation feels difficult, why your dreams take years instead of moments, why your visions remain on paper but rarely come alive. The truth is, it is not the universe withholding from you. It is not fate. It is not karma waiting for some secret tally to balance. It is your ego, clutching at control, demanding to be the center of a cosmos that was never meant to orbit around a single self. The ego does not like quantum manifestation because the quantum field, the space where infinite realities exist, has no boundaries, no labels, no I and you, only pure possibility. But the ego thrives on labels, on categories, on separation. It whispers, I am me, and I must protect what is mine. And in that whisper, the river of potential collapses back into the small cage of the known. Feel this truth. When you ask for something from the universe, you are not calling it into being. It already exists. You are simply aligning your awareness with the timeline where it is already true. But the ego interrupts, it doubts, it insists on proof. It says, I will believe it when I see it. Yet the quantum field works in reverse. You must believe first, then see. You must release control, then witness the unfolding. This is why your ego blocks manifestation, because it cannot comprehend surrender. To surrender feels like death to the ego, but to your soul, surrender is freedom. Pause for a moment. Feel your breath. Imagine the countless universes vibrating around you, right here, right now. Every version of you already exists. The healed one, the abundant one, the loved one, the free one. You are not waiting for them to appear. They are waiting for you to step out of your ego's prison and into the boundless. The ego says, show me the map before I take the journey. The soul says, step into the unknown, and the path will light itself. Which voice have you been listening to? The truth is dangerous, because once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Once you feel how the ego limits you, you begin to notice its every subtle whisper, every doubt, every fear, every excuse disguised as logic, and from that moment, you cannot go back. This is where your journey begins, in the recognition that your ego is not your enemy, but neither is it your master. It is the gatekeeper. And you, awakened, are the one who chooses whether to remain in its fortress or walk beyond it into the infinite field of creation. You have been taught since childhood that control is safety. That to plan is to protect. That to grip tightly is to ensure survival. But in the quantum field, control is not safety. It is suffocation. Think of the way water slips through your fingers when you try to hold it. The tighter you squeeze, the less remains. Manifestation works the same way. Your desires, your visions, your dreams, they are like water, fluid, alive, responsive. When you try to control how they must arrive, when they must arrive, through whom they must arrive, they slip away. The ego demands control because it is terrified of uncertainty. And yet, uncertainty is the very fabric of the quantum realm. Scientists call it superposition. Every possibility exists until attention collapses it into form. But your ego cannot tolerate that ambiguity. It wants certainty now. It wants guarantees. It wants to know the exact sequence of steps, as if creation were a machine rather than a living mystery. Here is the paradox: the more you demand certainty, the more you close yourself off from possibility. The ego narrows your vision to one outcome, one timeline, one rigid pathway. The quantum field offers you infinite outcomes, infinite timelines, infinite pathways. But to step into them, you must loosen your grip. Control is the illusion that keeps you small. Freedom is the surrender that expands you into the infinite. Pause. Feel that sentence land. Let it echo in your body. Notice how much of your life has been lived in control, of others, of yourself, of appearances, of outcomes. And now imagine the weight of all that control dissolving, like chains turning into mist. What remains is spaciousness, breath, possibility. The ego clings because it fears annihilation. It believes, if I am not in control, I am nothing. But you are not nothing. You are the universe, disguised as a human, learning to remember its own infinite nature. When you surrender control, you are not falling into chaos. You are rising into alignment. It is like trying to conduct an orchestra with only one instrument. The ego insists on the violin playing louder, certain that it alone must carry the song. But when you step back, you hear it, the symphony of creation already in motion. You were never the conductor. You were always the music. This is why manifestation feels so heavy when the ego is involved. It turns what should be a dance into a battle. It treats the universe like an opponent rather than a partner. But manifestation is not a war to be won. It is a rhythm to be surrendered to. Close your eyes, if only for a moment. Picture your greatest desire, not as something distant, but as something already here, shimmering around you in the quantum field. Your only task is not to force it into being, but to match its vibration. To breathe in its reality until it feels inevitable. That is how timelines collapse. That is how visions become form. And here is the hidden key. See, surrender is not weakness. Surrender is the ultimate strength, because it means you trust the field itself. You trust the intelligence that spins galaxies and unfolds flowers and keeps your heart beating without your command. That same intelligence knows how to manifest your vision, if only you let it. If this resonates, share it in the comments. It helps this message reach more seekers who are ready to step beyond the ego's illusion. Together, we weave a collective remembering. The ego is not evil. It is not a villain plotting your downfall. It is simply afraid. Afraid of disappearing. Afraid of dissolving into something greater than itself. And yet, this fear is the very block that keeps you from quantum manifestation. Because in the quantum field, you are not you, in the way your ego defines you. You are not the name given to you, the story you repeat, the roles you cling to. In the field, you are vibration, you are frequency. You are an ever-changing symphony of light and shadow, possibility and potential. But the ego says no, I must remain solid. I must remain defined. I must remain separate. Imagine a drop of water clinging to the edge of a leaf after the rain. It trembles, holding its shape, terrified of falling. But the moment it lets go, it merges with the infinite ocean below. The drop is not lost. It becomes more. That is what the ego fears. That in surrendering to the infinite, it will cease to exist. But what actually happens is expansion. The ego believes its own death is the end. But in truth, it is the beginning of everything you've ever wanted. This is why spiritual traditions across the world speak of ego death. Not as a destruction, but as a rebirth. The phoenix must burn before it can rise. The seed must break before it can grow. The caterpillar must dissolve before it can fly. Quantum manifestation asks you to do the same, to let go of the rigid form you think you are, so you can align with the infinite forms that are waiting for you. Science calls it coherence. When your heart and mind align, when your thoughts and emotions vibrate in harmony, the quantum field responds instantly. This is not metaphor, it is measurable. Your electromagnetic field expands. Your nervous system calms. Your brain waves shift into patterns of flow and creativity. You become a tuning fork for reality itself. But the ego disrupts coherence. It injects doubt, fear, resistance. It whispers, what if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if I'm not worthy? And in that whisper, coherence collapses. Your signal to the field becomes static. Your manifestation becomes delayed. You are not failing. You are not blocked. You are simply letting the ego drown out your signal. Pause. Let that truth settle. How many times have you stood at the edge of breakthrough, only to be pulled back by fear disguised as logic? How many times has your soul whispered, yes, while your ego shouted, no? The moment you recognize this, you awaken. You begin to see the ego not as your identity, but as a mask you can remove, a mask you can set aside. Beneath it, The radiant self waits, unafraid, limitless, deeply connected to all that is. And here lies the beautiful paradox: when you let go of ego, you do not vanish. You become more vividly yourself than ever before. Because the self you thought you were was only a fragment. The truth of you is vast, luminous, multidimensional. Every time you choose trust over fear, surrender over control, coherence over chaos, the ego loosens its grip, and in that loosening, manifestation accelerates. What once took years begins to arrive in weeks. What felt impossible becomes natural. This is not magic in the sense of fantasy. It is magic in the sense of remembering the laws of the universe that the ego has tried to make you forget. Your ego wants permanence. The field offers fluidity. Your ego wants certainty. The field offers possibility. Your ego wants to be the center. The field reminds you you are the whole. The choice is always yours. Your ego is a mirror, but it is fractured. Each shard reflects only a piece of who you are, the name you carry, the face in the photograph, the titles, the achievements, the wounds. Each fragment insists, this is me. And yet, when you press your hands against the glass, you feel how incomplete it is. The quantum field does not see fragments. It sees wholeness. It sees every version of you, all at once, spread across infinite timelines like constellations glowing against eternity. The version of you that succeeded. The version that surrendered. The version that healed. The version that still hides in the shadow. All of them real. All of them vibrating, waiting for your awareness to choose. But the ego clings to its fragment. It says, this is the only truth. This is all I am. And in that clinging, you collapse into limitation. Think of an old radio tuning between stations. The static you hear is not absence of sound. It is too many signals at once. Your ego is the static. It floods your mind with stories, fears, expectations. It keeps you tuned to noise, so you cannot hear the clear signal of your highest self. But when you step beyond the ego, coherence emerges. The station comes through clearly. And in that clarity, manifestation becomes effortless. Pause now. Reflect. How many of your desires come from the fractured mirror? How many are not true soul callings, but ego cravings, born of comparison, insecurity, the need to prove? Do you long for wealth because your soul is called to expansion, or because your ego is afraid of being small? Do you long for love because your soul remembers union, or because your ego is terrified of being alone? The ego's desires are heavy. They strain, they demand, they manifest slowly, if at all. But the soul's desires, they are light, they glide, they arrive with synchronicity so perfect it feels like destiny whispering your name. And here lies the secret most never see. The universe responds not to what you ask for, but to who is asking. When the ego asks, the field feels constriction. When the soul asks, the field feels expansion. The same words, the same prayer, the same vision, but two entirely different frequencies. You cannot manifest beyond the level of identity you are clinging to. If you see yourself as small, you will manifest small. If you see yourself as fractured, you will manifest fragments. But when you begin to remember your wholeness, the vastness that exists beyond the ego's mirror, reality reshapes itself to match. This is not philosophy. It is physics. At the quantum level, particles do not exist independently. They are entangled, interconnected, inseparable. Your very being is entanglement. The ego says, I am separate. But the field whispers, you were never separate. You are the whole, playing at being apart. Imagine what would happen if you lived from that truth. Imagine manifesting not as a fractured self, but as the whole of your being. Every timeline aligned. Every possibility humming through you like a symphony finely tuned. Manifestation would no longer be a struggle. It would be the most natural act of being. And here is the turning point. You do not need to destroy the ego. You need only to see through it, to recognize that the mirror was always fractured, but behind it, the light has always been whole. The ego asks, who am I? The soul answers, I am. And in that answer, the universe bends to meet you. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the infinite expanse of the night sky, galaxies spiraling, stars burning, black holes devouring and creating all at once. Everything in motion. everything in harmony. And now, imagine believing, even for a second, that all of this needs you to control it. That without your ego's constant grasping, the universe would somehow collapse. This is the absurdity the ego lives in. It believes it is the master of life, that it must plan every detail, fix every broken piece, force every outcome. But life has always been far vaster, far wiser, far more fluid than that. Manifestation is not about forcing reality. It is about aligning with the intelligence that already governs it, the same intelligence that choreographs planets, oceans, forests, and tides is already choreographing your path. When you surrender, you don't lose control. You gain alignment. But the ego resists. It insists, if I don't manage this, nothing will happen. Yet look at your body, your heart beats, your lungs expand, your cells regenerate, all without your command. The most essential functions of life are beyond egoic control. Why would manifestation be any different? Pause. Feel the relief in that truth. How much energy have you wasted trying to force the river to flow faster? The river was always carrying you. Your only work is to stop clinging to the rocks along the shore. Quantum physics teaches us that the observer influences reality. Your frequency, your emotional state, your inner coherence, shapes how the wave collapses into form. This is why surrender matters. Not because surrender is passive, but because surrender shifts your vibration. When you release fear, control, and doubt, you rise into trust, openness, and alignment. And in that state, the field reflects your expansion instantly. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving over. It is saying, I trust the intelligence that birthed galaxies to also guide my path. It is not weakness. It is the ultimate act of power. Think of the seasons. The tree does not force its leaves to fall. It lets go, trusting the cycle. In winter, it does not panic, wondering if spring will ever return. It waits. It trusts. And inevitably, the blossoms come again. Can you live with that same trust? Can you release the illusion that you must control the timing, the method, the outcome? The ego clings to certainty. The soul thrives in mystery. Manifestation lives in mystery. When you finally surrender, you notice something miraculous. Life begins to respond with synchronicities. The right person calls at the right moment. The opportunity arrives without effort. The door you didn't even know existed swings open. It feels like magic, but it is not magic. It is coherence. It is alignment. It is the field responding to the vibration of surrender. Here lies the sacred paradox. When you stop chasing, what you desire begins to approach you. When you stop grasping, what you long for finds your open hands. The field is not cruel. It is waiting for you to release the noise of the ego, so it can finally deliver the symphony your soul has been asking for all along. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if you surrendered right now? If you stopped fighting, stopped controlling, stopped doubting, and simply allowed? You would not shrink. You would expand. You would not lose. You would receive. Because manifestation was never about effort. It was about alignment. Her visual suggestion, a figure floating on a vast, luminous river of stars. At first they thrash and struggle, trying to swim against the current. Then, slowly, they release, lying back, arms open, and the river carries them effortlessly toward a radiant horizon of light. At the root of every blocked manifestation lies a hidden belief: I am not worthy. The ego wears this belief like armor, though it denies it with every breath. It builds castles of achievement, towers of comparison, masks of perfection, all to prove its worth. But deep within, beneath the layers of defense, the echo remains: what if I don't deserve it? What if I am not enough? This echo is poison to manifestation. Not because the universe punishes you, but because the quantum field mirrors your vibration. If you vibrate unworthiness, the field reflects scarcity. If you vibrate doubt, the field reflects delay. If you vibrate fear, the field reflects obstacles. Pause here. Feel into your own story. How many times has something beautiful come close, only for your ego to sabotage it? A relationship, a career, a chance at abundance. The ego whispers, it's too good to be true. You can't trust this. You don't deserve it. And in believing, you collapse the timeline where it was already yours. But listen closely, worthiness is not something you earn. It is something you remember. You are born of the same intelligence that births stars. You are not here by accident. The breath in your lungs is proof of your worthiness. Existence itself is the permission slip. The ego convinces you otherwise, because if you remembered your infinite worth, the ego would no longer rule you. Science speaks of resonance. When two frequencies align, they amplify one another. The human heart, when coherent, can synchronize with others across measurable distances. Your sense of worthiness is resonance. When you believe you are worthy, your frequency aligns with your desire, amplifies it, and the field responds instantly. Worthiness is not arrogance. It is not entitlement. Worthiness is the calm knowing that you are an extension of the infinite, and therefore lack nothing. It is not shouting, "I deserve this." It is quietly embodying, "I already am this." Reflect for a moment. What if the life you dream of is not waiting to be given to you, but waiting for you to remember you are already worthy of it? The shift is not outside. It is within. The moment you stop asking if you deserve it, you collapse the distance between yourself and the reality where it already exists. This is why spiritual teachers have always said, "As within, so without." Your inner worth reflects your outer world. Your inner coherence becomes your outer creation. The field cannot contradict what you embody. Your ego says, "I will be worthy when I achieve." Your soul whispers, "You achieve because you are already worthy." Which voice have you been living by? Imagine the freedom of no longer chasing worthiness. Imagine living as if you were already whole, already deserving, already enough. How would you walk? How would you love? How would you create? That is the vibration the quantum field responds to. That is the frequency where manifestation becomes natural. The dangerous truth is this: the universe never doubted your worth, only you did. And the moment you stop, the world rearranges itself to reflect your remembrance. You have walked through the illusions of ego. You have seen its walls, its fears, its fractured mirrors. You have felt how it blocks the river of manifestation, how it clings to control, how it whispers of unworthiness. And now, here you stand, at the threshold of remembrance. The truth has always been dangerous. Dangerous, because once you know it, you can never return to the sleep of ignorance. Dangerous, because it unravels everything the ego built to keep you small. But in that danger lies liberation. You are not a seeker begging the universe to deliver scraps. You are the universe, remembering itself through the eyes of a human being. Manifestation is not something you do. It is something you are. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Feel the infinite field around you, vibrating with timelines, each one already alive. The wealthy you, the healed you, the loved you, the free you. They are not distant fantasies. They are parallel realities, waiting for the vibration of your remembrance. When you release control, the field responds. When you dissolve fear, the field expands. When you remember worthiness, the field aligns. This is the great secret: the universe is not testing you. It is not withholding. It is mirroring, always, without exception. Every thought, every emotion, every frequency you embody is a brushstroke painting the canvas of your reality. Ego paints with fear. Soul paints with light. Which artist will you allow to guide your hand? Imagine now a life where manifestation flows as naturally as breath, where synchronicities are constant, where doors open effortlessly, where your desires do not strain against resistance, but glide into your hands with grace. This is not fantasy. This is coherence. This is the soul leading. This is you stepping fully into your role as quantum creator. Do not fight the ego. Do not despise it. Thank it for its service, and then walk beyond it. It was the gatekeeper, but the gate is open now. Beyond it lies infinity, and infinity has been waiting for you. The time has come to stop rehearsing the past and start broadcasting the future, to stop asking if you are enough and begin creating as if you always were, to stop fearing dissolution and begin expanding into wholeness. The ego whispers, "What if I fail?" The soul sings, "What if you fly?" And in that song, the universe bends. Your life is not a rehearsal. It is the stage where the cosmos remembers itself. Every desire you manifest is not just for you. It is for the whole, because you are the whole. And when you rise, the entire field rises with you. So step beyond the walls. Let the drop fall into the ocean. Let the mirror dissolve into light. Let the fractured self remember its wholeness. Because the truth is this: you were never blocked. You were never separate. You were never unworthy. You are, and always have been, the field itself.